In December of 2015, many new survival games were popping up on Steam, and basically everywhere else in the PC gaming community. They were all trying to be the next DayZ or Minecraft, and many of them were trying to improve issues with the previous games. But with so many new games coming out with the same premise, there was one major issue. Most of them were pretty much the same game. It seemed like every survival game had the exact same concept and did the same thing in the same exact boring way, with no new mechanics or premises to the game. Because of this, many of these upcoming games didn't really seem interesting to me. I would go on YouTube or Steam and look all the time for new and upcoming survival games that my friends and I could purchase. One of these games stood out to me in particular, and that game was Hurtworld. Hurtworld seemed like a game that took the fun parts of survival games and combined them with some unique quirks and mechanics that made it stand out from the other games. As we researched it a little bit more, we decided that we were going to buy the game. So whenever a sale came out, we purchased it, and we wanted to see what it was about. We started it up and had an absolute blast, and it seemed like other players were too. If you were to take a look at the player count during this period, you would see that compared to other up-and-coming survival games such as Reign of Kings, the game was doing extremely well. It had a very active player base and honestly one of the best communities that I had ever seen in a survival game at the time. But unfortunately, that all has changed. The game is now an abandoned wasteland with nothing left but the buggy remains of what it used to be. So this makes you question, how can an extremely unique and fun game like this go from something that everyone loved to something that was completely forgotten about and abandoned? We're going to be covering that in today's video, why Hurtworld failed. Starting out from the very beginning of this story, Hurtworld was unique and fun, and that's why it picked up in popularity and why people started playing it. It was a survival game that actually had a focus on survival. If you didn't stay warm at nighttime, you died. If you got killed by other players, you didn't lose your items unless you were one who also kills other players. So if you killed someone, you lose reputation, and the lower your reputation gets, the more items you lose upon death. While exploring, hostile animals and creatures would be everywhere, and you can easily die from these creatures. Your food spoiled, but if you froze it, it would last longer. Base building was the perfect mix of tedious and efficient, and bases were fairly difficult to raid. And all of these things are the reason why my friends and I purchased this game. It was unique and focused on survival, so again, that's why we purchased it. And those unique qualities are actually what caused this game to get popular. People had lots of hope that this game would become the next Rust, and would improve upon the things that Rust did wrong. Because of this hope, people played and purchased the game instantly and enjoyed every single part of it. Like I said earlier, the community was honestly amazing, and from experience, I could tell you that it was one of the best survival game communities that I had ever seen at the time. Players were extremely helpful, mature, and they weren't toxic. They helped new players learn the game and seemed to enjoy doing so. Now, I don't know if this is the case for everyone, but for me at least, I loved the community when I started playing this game. But while there were all of these positive things, there were also some negatives. The game was extremely buggy and had lots of random issues that would pop up and absolutely destroy the gameplay experience. Players would randomly die, animals would be invincible, and some weird things just happened. These were all issues that could be overlooked, however, because the game was so new and had so much potential coming up on the horizon. But the developers, Bankroll Studios, did a great job at targeting and fixing these issues as they appeared. For example, they released 3 major patches to fix issues in the game within the first 24 hours of the release. Actually, most of the patches that came right after the release of the game fixed a lot of the major issues, and fairly quickly. But of course, like any game, with more updates comes more bugs. But we will get to that in a minute. But along with the patches that fixed some of the major issues, there were also a decent amount of content being announced in dev blogs for the game. This wasn't content that was being added per se, but it was content that was being announced to be added in the future updates that would come. The devs were extremely active with all of their dev blogs, and people were becoming more and more excited about the future of this game. They kept cranking out tons of patches and small additions, and people kept waiting for more of the big stuff to be added. There were tons of huge announcements in their dev blogs, all of which were extremely cool and game-changing things that would be added, and the hype is what kept people playing. But as time progressed, people began to get bored with the content and had nothing to do, myself included. As people began to get bored and experience the full potential of the game quicker and quicker, they stopped playing. What was the point of playing if you have nothing to play for? During this time though, the player counts were still pretty decent. While the game did die down a little, it still had a slightly above average player count and a very loyal fan base. But this is when issues began to arise. First of all, hardly any of the announced content was coming into the game. It seemed like a lot of the stuff mentioned in the dev blogs just wasn't happening and no more updates were given about them. At this time, players were still getting bored because the game wasn't being updated, and all that were released were weeks and weeks of small bug fixes and patches, and hardly any new content was being added to the game, resulting in even more players getting bored and even more players leaving. The stuff that was announced in their dev blogs and the stuff that would overhaul the game to fix a lot of the problems was actually set to be in a different version of the game. What this meant is that in order to play with the new content, you had to switch to an even buggier experimental version of the game. This new stuff was only in this experimental version, so if you wanted to play it, you had to switch to that version. Hardly any of the previously announced content was actually being used to fix and improve the current version of the game. But like I said, instead it was all being put into this new version that was in development. With no new content, players continued on this new downward cycle and stopped playing the game altogether. As the older and mature players left the game for bigger and better things, such as Rust, new, younger players were brought into the community. This new group of the community became extremely toxic, and as people got more irritated with the state of the game and the lack of content being added, the community got even worse. And since the community was just getting worse and worse, it pretty much managed to run the rest of the remaining player base out of the game, making the group of active players even lower. So pretty much to summarize, the main reason was that there was lack of content in the game. People got bored, and the developers really weren't doing enough to fix it. The companies kept posting more and more updates, but all of these updates just went into the new version of the game, the version that was extremely buggy and that nobody even played. While they were doing this, the main section of the game was being neglected and began to die off even further. Bugs began to pop up and game-breaking issues appeared. The developers did the best they could to fix these updates as they appeared, but many of them have still not been fixed until this day. For example, an extremely large bug that allows players to glitch into rocks has still not been fixed. The animals are still extremely buggy and barely work, and weapons are just terrible. So the base game just absolutely died, but even the experimental version has continued to drive players away. Many of the players who actually started playing in this new experimental version have left that as well, just because of the direction it's going. Since again, this is an experimental version, the developers change directions of the game all the time. With these constant changes, there's a constant learning curve, and the devs don't ever talk about how to play the new content. So people once again get fed up and even leave this version of the game. But since these updates to the experimental started happening, the 1.0, or the original version of the game, has been completely abandoned, and the work is being done solely in the experimental version. And furthermore, since the main game has been abandoned, people stop playing because they don't want to waste their time playing a game that has lost its purpose. And if no new content is coming, there's no reason to keep playing. If you were to take a look at the content being added to the experimental version of the game, you could see that it looks really cool. It seems as if the devs are on the right track with this up-and-coming version, and many players are hoping that it could re-spark the Hurtworld fire and create a new surge in players. The issue that I'm worried about, however, is that I feel as if it will be too late. The game has lost its popularity entirely, and I'm not sure that people will actually start playing this game again, even after the new content was added. But this is just one of those things that we'll have to wait for and see if it works itself out. It's just sad that this game isn't what it used to be, and it sucks that people really can't enjoy it anymore. Anyways guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I just want to thank you guys so much for watching these new types of videos. I really enjoy working on them, and I really hope you guys do as well. What are your thoughts on Hurtworld? Have you ever played it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. One more thing guys, I am almost at 150,000 subscribers, and again, I do want to thank you guys so much for all of the support lately. But because of this, we have a pretty big milestone coming up, and I have to do something special. So I'm actually going to be doing a 150,000 subscriber Q&A. I need you guys to ask me questions, so there's one of two ways to do this. First of all, click the link on the Twitter in the description below, follow me on Twitter, and tweet me your questions. There's a pretty high chance that if you do that, I will see them, so if you want to be in the video, that's probably your best option. On the other hand, if you don't have Twitter, go ahead and join my Discord, also linked in the description below. Once you join, you will see a channel that says Q&A questions, and simply go in there and type your question, and of course, if it's a good question, I will put it in the video. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching my channel. I really appreciate the support. I will see you guys next time, and peace. Just one thing I want to mention real quick. A lot of people get mad if I make a video that's just 10 minutes, so this video is pretty much just 10 minutes. I just wanted to mention that this was originally going to be a 15-minute video, but I cut out a good 5 minutes worth because it was just pointless rambling. So I would rather have 10 minutes and get yelled at for it than have 15 minutes and get people turned off from rambling. So please don't yell at me. Sorry.